right, let's get some analysis now on what happens in this investigation and the bigger picture as well. Marco Vincenzo is standing by in New York. He's the director of Global Strategy Project, a global affairs analyst as well. Great to have you back with us today, Marco. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
We have heard British Prime Minister Theresa May say enough is enough. This is the third attack in the UK in the last 2.5 months or so. I'm curious what you make of what's happening.
First of all, British counterterrorism officials are some of the best qualified in the world. Yet, on the other hand, they're overwhelmed and, to a certain degree, under-resourced. What I mean by overwhelmed is the fact that you have, currently in Britain, there's about 500 criminal investigations going on, about 3,000 suspects involved in that. And on the other hand, there seems to be at least another 20,000 individuals of suspicion. So basically, that's what's part of it, is being overwhelmed. And when I say they're under-resourced, in the sense is that many of them don't have the resources to conduct round-the-clock monitoring of many individuals. So they have to be very selective in how they do it. They have to make sure those individuals, there's enough intelligence, reliable intelligence and information. And then the other challenge is actually in the legal sense, is getting that information and converting it into proof, into evidence to bring cases against them. So I'd say under-resourced, overwhelmed, but very efficient also. I mean, you have to give them credit. Since 2013, at least 18 attacks have been thwarted. And since the March attacks at Westminster, at least 5 have been thwarted. 5 attacks have been thwarted. So yes, efficient, but also overwhelmed and under-resourced. That's something that has to be addressed. And as if you look in a broader picture, we're 3 days away from the UK elections. So this is very critical timing also for the political establishment. And also it's a time of Ramadan. In the time of Ramadan, radical groups, particularly groups like ISIS in the Middle East, have been calling for their followers to mount attacks. So there's several critical factors at play here. And also if this can change the elections on June 8th, this is what they try to do, is not only just gain headlines, but also influence and impact the political process.
When you talk about 20,000 people, Marco, under investigation or at least on watch lists, I mean, it seems like mission impossible to keep track of all of those people at all times.
Hence, that's the difficulty at the present time. I mean, this is not something that occurred overnight. And this goes back over, I'd say over 25 years. There's at a time in the 1990s when the UK at the time was allowing in radical preachers, many of them from the Middle East, who set roots in Britain, and over a generation have developed a group of following, and it's potentially these individuals were followers of those radical groups. So this is something, it doesn't take place overnight. It's years in the making. And I think Prime Minister Theresa May made it clear in her first major speech after the attack, when she said enough is enough, that even tolerance has its level. And then for a long period of time, tolerance. It was only after 9/11, when many of those radical preachers began to praise the attackers of 9/11, that things began to change. But by then, a lot of the damage had been done. The seeds had been planted, and over years, now they're slowly coming to fruition.
Is the UK a ticking time bomb when it comes to this sort of thing, Marco?
With those numbers, I mean, there's many ticking time bombs. I'd say not just the UK, but all over Europe, particularly in recent times, since the war in Syria, starting in 2011. Many individuals who they've either come from the region, come to Europe, together with, they've hidden amongst the refugees. There's been many homegrown from countries like not only the UK, but France, Belgium, Germany, who have gone to the region and have come back home. And many of those you can also call ticking time bombs that can be activated at any given moment. This is an overwhelming challenge for law enforcement and counterterrorism throughout the Western world, and particularly in the UK.
Marco Vincenzo, director of the Global Strategy Project in New York today. Thank you for this, Marco. Great to have you on the show with us here in Canada.
Thank you.